I unlocked the apartment door and dropped my keys beside the wall. Usually Vanessa ran toward me with a smile or complained about another rude customer from her fashion store. Tonight, silence filled the apartment. The city lights outside our giant windows looked cold instead of beautiful. I loosened my tie and walked toward the kitchen. Vanessa sat at the marble counter with her laptop open, barely glancing at me. Her expression looked distant again. That had become normal lately. I forced a smile anyway. "Hey. I brought your favorite noodles." She didn't even look up. I already ate. My stomach tightened immediately. I leaned against the counter and studied her face carefully. "You've barely spoken to me all week." She sighed loudly. "Daniel, I'm tired." "Tired of what?" I asked. "Everything." Her answer hit harder than expected. For 6 years, I built my life around Vanessa Hale. I worked construction during the day and spent nights helping pack orders for her online fashion business. I paid most bills while she grew her brand online. I believed every sacrifice meant something because I loved her completely. Now she treated me like some annoying stranger. I pulled out a chair slowly. "Talk to me. Please." She finally closed the laptop and crossed her arms. "You really don't understand anything, do you?" I frowned. "Understand what?" "Why I'm unhappy." I stared at her carefully. "If this is about work stress, we can fix it together." She laughed under her breath. "That's exactly the problem." "What problem?" "You think small." I blinked slowly. "Excuse me?" She stood and walked toward the windows overlooking downtown. "You're comfortable living an average life." "Average?" I repeated. "Vanessa, we live in a luxury apartment. And I want more." "More than this?" She turned toward me with cold eyes. "I deserve more." The words felt like somebody pressing a knife directly into my chest. "Where is this coming from?" I asked quietly. She shook her head impatiently. "You're too emotional, Daniel." "Because I care about us?" "Because you hold me back." I stared at her in disbelief. "I supported you from the beginning." "I know." "Then why are you acting like I ruined your life?" She walked back toward the counter and grabbed a glass of water. "Because you make me feel stuck." "That's insane." Her jaw tightened immediately. "See? Every disagreement becomes drama with you." "This isn't drama. This is our relationship." She looked directly into my eyes without any warmth left. Maybe that relationship shouldn't continue. My heartbeat stopped for a second. "What are you saying?" "I'm leaving you." The sentence shattered everything inside me instantly. "No," I whispered. "You don't mean that." "I do. Vanessa, we've spent 6 years together. And I wasted enough time already." I stepped closer desperately. "If I did something wrong, tell me." "You exist comfortably while I'm trying to build something bigger." "We built it together." "No," she snapped. "I built it. You just helped." Her words felt crueler than anything she had ever said before. I rubbed both hands over my face, trying to breathe normally again. "There's someone else, isn't there?" She looked away immediately. My stomach dropped hard. "Answer me." She stayed silent another second before speaking softly. "His name is Adrian." I laughed bitterly. "How long?" "A few months." "A few months?" I repeated loudly. "You cheated on me for months while I kept supporting you?" "It wasn't supposed to happen like this." "Then how was it supposed to happen?" She shrugged carelessly. "People change." "No," I snapped. "People lie." She rolled her eyes. This reaction is exactly why I stopped loving you. I backed away slowly because I suddenly didn't recognize the woman standing before me. Stopped loving me? I whispered. When? I don't know. That's a lie. Believe whatever helps you sleep tonight. My chest burned with anger and heartbreak together. Who even are you anymore? Someone finally choosing herself. By cheating? By refusing to stay trapped. I laughed painfully. Trapped? I gave you everything. And I appreciated it. Past tense? Yes. The apartment suddenly felt suffocating. Every picture on the walls, every piece of furniture, every memory felt poisoned. I looked around slowly. Was anything between us real? She hesitated quietly before answering. That tiny hesitation destroyed me completely. I swallowed hard and pointed toward the hallway. I'm packing my things. You don't need to rush, she replied calmly. I walked into our bedroom and opened the closet with shaking hands. While stuffing clothes into a travel bag, I heard her heels approaching behind me. Actually, she said casually, there's something else we should discuss. I turned around slowly. She handed me a thick folder. What's this? Legal paperwork. I opened the folder carefully. Contracts. Ownership transfers. Financial agreements. My pulse started racing immediately. Why are these signed? She crossed her arms again. Because you signed them last year. I flipped through the papers faster, panic rising inside me. These were business restructuring forms. Partly. You told me they were tax documents. You should have read everything carefully. My breathing became uneven. Vanessa, this says the apartment belongs to your company. It does. Our savings accounts too? Yes. I looked at her with complete disbelief. You planned this? She stayed silent. Oh my God, I whispered. You planned all of it. I protected myself. By stealing from me? By preparing for the future. I felt tears forming despite fighting them desperately. You used me. Don't act shocked, she replied coldly. I zipped my bag angrily and walked toward the front door. Vanessa followed slowly behind me. Where are you going? Anywhere except here. You're overreacting. I turned toward her sharply. You cheated on me and took everything I worked for. You'll recover. How can you sound so calm? Because I already accepted this months ago. That answer hurt worse than the cheating. While I reached for the door handle, she leaned against the wall with a small smirk across her face. Honestly, Daniel, she said quietly, you'll never recover from this. I froze completely. 6 years together, and those were her final words to me. I walked into the hallway without responding because speaking felt impossible. By the time I reached my car, heavy rain hammered the streets outside. My hands shook so badly I almost dropped my keys twice. I sat behind the wheel staring at the apartment building towering above me. Just yesterday, it felt like home. Now it looked like a stranger's property. My phone suddenly buzzed across the passenger seat. Marcus. I answered weakly. Hey. His voice sounded concerned immediately. Bro, what happened? I closed my eyes tightly. She left me. Silence followed. Then Marcus spoke softly. Where are you right now? I looked through the rain-covered windshield while my entire world collapsed around me. I honestly don't know anymore, I admitted quietly. Danny, talk to me. My throat tightened painfully. She took everything. What do you mean? The apartment. The accounts. Everything. Marcus cursed under his breath. Come stay with me tonight. I let out a broken laugh. This morning I still thought she loved me. I'm serious, he replied firmly. You shouldn't be alone right now. I looked back toward the glowing apartment windows one final time. Then I started the engine and drove into the storm feeling completely destroyed. Marcus lived in a cramped apartment above an old repair shop across town. The ceiling leaked when it rained, the couch smelled like coffee, and the heater made strange noises every night. Somehow, it still felt safer than the luxury apartment I lost 3 days earlier. I sat on Marcus's couch staring at my phone while another picture of Vanessa appeared online. She stood beside Adrian Cross at some expensive rooftop party, smiling like I had never existed. My chest tightened instantly. Marcus walked into the living room carrying 2 beers. You need to stop looking at her page. I tossed the phone onto the couch. I can't help it. Yeah, you can. He handed me a bottle. You're torturing yourself. I rubbed my tired eyes. 6 years, Marcus. She replaced me in 6 weeks. Probably less. His honesty stung, but I knew he was right. I leaned back against the couch quietly. I keep replaying everything in my head. That's normal. No, I muttered. It's pathetic. Marcus sat across from me and pointed a finger toward my chest. You got betrayed. That doesn't make you pathetic. I signed those papers without reading them. Because you trusted her. That makes me an idiot. He sighed heavily. Danny, listen to yourself. I laughed bitterly. Hard not to. My entire life exploded because I loved somebody too much. Marcus stayed silent for a second before speaking carefully. I think you should fight back. Fight back how? Legally. I shook my head immediately. I don't have money for lawyers. Actually, you might. I frowned. What are you talking about? My cousin's a lawyer. Marcus, she's good. I can't afford good. Relax. She owes me favors. I stared at him uncertainly. I don't even know if there's a case. Marcus leaned forward seriously. Danny, rich people don't randomly hand over everything during breakups. Something feels off. I looked down at the beer bottle in my hands. Maybe I just missed the warning signs. Then let somebody smarter figure it out. The next afternoon, Marcus dragged me into a quiet office downtown. Olivia Bennett sat behind a desk covered in paperwork and legal books. She looked calm, focused, and completely different from Vanessa's loud energy. Olivia wore a dark blazer with her hair tied neatly behind her head. When she looked at me, her expression softened slightly. You look exhausted, she said gently. I laughed awkwardly. That obvious? Very. Marcus dropped the folder of contracts onto her desk. Can you tell him whether he got screwed legally or emotionally? Olivia opened the folder immediately. Probably both. I sat quietly while she studied every page carefully. The silence made me nervous. After several minutes, Olivia frowned slightly. These transfers are strange. I looked up immediately. Strange how? She pointed toward one section. Vanessa transferred shared assets into shell accounts connected to her company. What does that mean? It means she moved money around before the breakup. Marcus cursed softly. Olivia continued flipping pages. And these signatures happened months before she left you. My stomach dropped. Months? Olivia nodded slowly. This wasn't impulsive. I rubbed both hands over my face again. So she planned everything. Olivia looked at me carefully before answering. Honestly? Yes. Hearing it from somebody else hurt worse somehow. Marcus shook his head angrily. That's cold. Olivia stayed focused on the documents. Who's Adrian Cross? My head lifted instantly. Why? His name appears beside several investment transfers. I swallowed hard. He's the guy she cheated with. Olivia exchanged a glance with Marcus. Then he might be more involved than you realize. That night, I couldn't sleep. Marcus snored loudly in the other room while I sat alone scrolling through old pictures on my phone. At first, every memory looked happy. Vacations. Birthday dinners. Late-night selfies. Then small details started standing out. Vanessa constantly checking her phone. Her sudden business trips. The nights she claimed she was meeting investors alone. My stomach twisted painfully. I remembered one specific night 6 months earlier. Daniel, I have a late dinner meeting, she told me while fixing her makeup in the mirror. At 9 at night? That's when investors are free. You want me to come? No, she answered too quickly. It's strictly business. At the time, I believed her completely. Now every memory felt rotten. The next morning, Olivia called me unexpectedly. Can you come by my office again? Did you find something? Possibly. Her tone sounded serious enough to make my pulse race. 20 minutes later, I sat across from her desk again. Olivia turned her laptop toward me. I searched public business records connected to Adrian Cross. My chest tightened instantly. Okay. His company started investing in Vanessa's brand almost a year ago. A year? I whispered. Olivia nodded. And the investment amounts increased every few months. Marcus folded his arms angrily. So Adrian was funding her while she was dating Danny. Olivia looked at me carefully. Did Vanessa suddenly become distant around that time? I laughed bitterly. That's exactly when everything changed. My mind replayed dozens of moments instantly. Why are you smiling at your phone? It's just work messages. Why are you hiding the screen? You're being paranoid. God. I covered my mouth with my hand. I really ignored all of it. Olivia spoke quietly. Love makes people overlook painful things. Marcus snorted. Love made him blind. I stared down at the floor. I kept thinking if I supported her enough, she'd love me forever. Olivia's eyes softened slightly. People who use others know exactly how to reward loyalty just enough to keep control. That sentence hit me hard. Olivia opened another file on her laptop carefully. There's one more thing. What? She hesitated briefly. I found an archived voice recording attached to an old business email. My stomach tightened immediately. What kind of recording? I think you should hear it yourself. She pressed play. Vanessa's voice filled the office instantly. He's loyal to a fault, she laughed softly. A man answered. Adrian. So he suspects nothing? Daniel? Vanessa scoffed. Please. He's easy to control. My chest physically hurt. Adrian laughed quietly through the speakers. And the contracts? He signs whatever I put in front of him. I couldn't be. My morning started before sunrise now. I spent most days carrying concrete bags, fixing broken walls, and taking whatever freelance construction jobs I could find. By the time I returned to Marcus's apartment every night, my back hurt so badly I could barely stand straight. Still, physical pain felt easier than thinking about Vanessa. One afternoon, I sat alone during lunch break scrolling through my phone when another picture of her appeared online. Vanessa stood beside Adrian on a yacht somewhere in Italy. She wore expensive sunglasses and smiled directly at the camera like she had already won life completely. Must be nice, one comment read. Power couple, another said. My stomach twisted hard. I locked my phone immediately, but the image stayed trapped in my head. Marcus noticed my expression when I got home that night. You looked at her page again, didn't you? I tossed my work boots near the couch. It showed up automatically. That's not an answer. I rubbed dirt from my hands tiredly. She looks happy. Marcus scoffed. Social media happiness isn't real. Feels real enough. He walked toward me holding gym clothes. Good. Then let's go. I stared at him. Go where? The gym. I laughed weakly. I worked 10 hours today. And now you'll work one more. I'm exhausted. You're depressed, he corrected. Big difference. I dropped onto the couch. I'm not in the mood to lift weights while my life burns down. Marcus threw the gym bag directly into my chest. Exactly why you need it. An hour later, I stood inside the gym feeling completely out of place. I used to come here regularly before Vanessa's business consumed our lives. Back then, I actually cared about myself. Now I looked thinner, exhausted, and emotionally destroyed. Marcus adjusted weights on a bench press. You know what your problem is? I sighed heavily. Besides everything? You built your entire identity around one woman. That's not true. It is, he replied immediately. When she left, you lost yourself too. I hated how accurate that sounded. After the workout, my body felt weak but strangely lighter mentally. Marcus handed me a water bottle while smirking. See? You didn't die. Barely survived. That still counts. For the first time in weeks, I laughed a little. The next evening, I met Olivia at her office again. She sat surrounded by paperwork while typing rapidly on her laptop. Without looking up, she pointed toward a coffee cup beside her desk. I bought you one. I blinked. You remembered my order? You seem emotionally attached to caramel coffee. I smiled slightly while sitting down. That's surprisingly observant. Olivia finally looked at me. Lawyers notice details. I opened the coffee slowly. Find anything new? Her expression turned serious again. Actually, yes. She pulled several financial documents toward me. Vanessa transferred money from your shared account into company accounts repeatedly over the last year. I studied the papers carefully. How much money? A lot. My jaw tightened immediately. Olivia continued, the transfers became larger after Adrian Cross invested. So Adrian knew? I can't prove that yet. I leaned back in frustration. Every answer somehow creates 5 more questions. That's usually how betrayal works. I looked toward her quietly. You say things like that from experience. Her fingers paused briefly above the keyboard. Maybe. That single word carried enough pain to stop me from asking more. For the next few weeks, my life became a cycle. Construction jobs during the day. Gym with Marcus at night. Legal meetings with Olivia afterward. I barely slept, but staying busy stopped my mind from drowning completely. Still, Vanessa remained everywhere online. One night, Marcus suddenly cursed while scrolling through his phone. What? I asked. He looked uncomfortable. You probably shouldn't see this. See what? Without answering, he handed me the phone. Vanessa sat during a live stream interview promoting her brand. The interviewer laughed. So what happened with your ex-boyfriend? Vanessa rolled her eyes dramatically. Honestly? Some people get comfortable being average. The audience laughed lightly. She continued, I carried dead weight for years. My chest tightened painfully. The interviewer asked, "Do you regret the relationship?" Vanessa smiled coldly. "I regret settling." Marcus grabbed the phone back immediately. "Forget her." But I couldn't. That clip spread everywhere online over the next 2 days. Thousands of strangers mocked me without even knowing my name. Gold digger boyfriend. Weak man. She upgraded. Every comment felt like another punch directly into my chest. Late one night, I sat alone outside Olivia's office building after another meeting. She walked out carrying her coat and stopped when she saw me staring at the ground. "You okay?" I laughed quietly. "Not even close." She sat beside me on the steps without speaking immediately. After a long silence, I finally muttered, "I feel humiliated all the time." Olivia looked ahead calmly. "Humiliation fades. Does betrayal?" "No." Her honesty somehow comforted me more than fake encouragement ever could. I rubbed my hands together nervously. What if everyone believes her? Most people believe whatever looks successful. That's depressing. It's realistic. 3 months after joining Ethan Cole's company, my life finally started feeling stable again. I still worked insane hours, but now the exhaustion meant something. Instead of dragging concrete through rainstorms, I managed projects, supervised construction teams, and attended meetings with investors. Ethan trusted me more every week. One afternoon, he tossed a folder onto my desk and said, "You saved us nearly $200,000 on this site." I looked up from the paperwork. The original supplier was overcharging. "That's why I hired you." Ethan smirked slightly. "You notice things." I laughed quietly. "Funny. Vanessa used to say I never noticed anything." Ethan's expression darkened slightly. "Then she was blind." Hearing words like that still felt strange. For months, Vanessa made me feel small enough to disappear. Now people actually respected me again. Not completely, though. Some nights I still woke up angry. Other nights I woke up missing her. That part disgusted me the most. One evening after work, Marcus handed me a beer while we watched basketball in his apartment. "You look less miserable lately," he said casually. "Thanks. I think. I'm serious. You finally stopped looking like somebody died." I leaned back against the couch. "Maybe part of me did." Marcus pointed toward me. "Don't get dramatic now that you wear suits again." I laughed softly. Then my phone buzzed. The name on the screen instantly tightened my chest. "Vanessa." Marcus noticed immediately. "No way." I stared at the phone without answering. "She hasn't contacted you in months," Marcus said carefully. "I know." The phone kept vibrating in my hand. Finally, I answered quietly. "Hello?" Her voice sounded softer than I remembered. "Hey, Daniel." Hearing her again after months felt dangerous. "What do you want?" "That's cold. You disappeared after destroying my life." Silence filled the line briefly. "I know things ended badly," she finally said. "Badly?" "You know what I mean." I rubbed my forehead tiredly. "Why are you calling?" "I just miss talking to you." Every instinct inside me screamed not to trust her. Still, part of me wanted to believe her anyway. That scared me. Vanessa continued softly, "Can we meet?" "Just for coffee." I should have said no immediately. Instead, I hesitated. Big mistake. The next evening, I sat across from Vanessa inside a quiet cafe downtown. She looked beautiful as always, but something felt different. Her smile looked forced. Her eyes looked tired underneath the makeup. You look good, she said gently. So do you. That sounded painful for you. I shrugged slightly. I'm trying to be mature. She smiled faintly. You always were. That almost made me laugh. No. I thought bitterly. I was just easy to control. Vanessa stirred her coffee slowly. Marcus told Sophia your company's doing well. I looked up carefully. Sophia? My old friend. I remembered Sophia Turner vaguely. She used to work with Vanessa before quietly disappearing from her circle months earlier. You still talk to her? I asked. Sometimes. She leaned forward slightly. So, operations manager now? There it was. Not curiosity. Investigation. I stayed calm. Something like that. That's impressive. Thanks. How much does that kind of position pay? I almost smiled. There it is again. The manipulation beneath the sweetness. I leaned back slowly. Why does that matter? Vanessa blinked innocently. I'm just asking. No. You're calculating. Her expression shifted immediately. You think I came here for money? I think you came because you heard my life's improving. That's unfair. I laughed quietly. Is it? Vanessa crossed her arms defensively. You've changed. So have you. For a second, silence sat heavily between us. Then she sighed. Adrian's been difficult lately. I watched her carefully. Difficult how? He's controlling. The irony almost choked me. He checks everything, she continued. My schedule, my business expenses, even who I talk to. You seemed happy online. Vanessa's collapse started quietly. Then everything exploded at once. It began with Adrian Cross disappearing from her social media completely. No pictures. No interviews. No expensive vacations. People noticed immediately. Online gossip pages started posting rumors about business fraud connected to Vanessa's company. 2 days later, former employees began speaking publicly. She never paid overtime. She manipulated contracts. She threatened us constantly. Every hour brought another accusation. Marcus showed me one post while we sat in his apartment eating takeout. Damn, he muttered. The internet turned on her fast. I stared at my phone silently while comments flooded Vanessa's latest post. Fraud. Fake boss. Scammer. For months, I imagined this moment constantly. I thought seeing her reputation burn would make me feel satisfied. Instead, I mostly felt tired. Olivia called me later that night. We're filing tomorrow morning. I straightened immediately. Already? We have enough evidence now. My stomach tightened nervously. What happens next? Court hearings. Financial investigations. Asset freezes possibly. I rubbed my forehead slowly. This is getting serious. Olivia's voice remained calm. It was always serious. The next morning, every news page online carried another headline. Adrian Cross cuts business ties with Vanessa Hale. I clicked the article immediately. According to insiders, Adrian discovered undisclosed company debts and suspicious financial activity connected to Vanessa's accounts. Sources claimed he ended both personal and professional relationships with her to protect his reputation. Marcus whistled lowly beside me. He dropped her fast. I stared at the article quietly. That's how people like Adrian survive. What do you mean? They leave before the ship sinks. Part of me remembered how Vanessa once left me exactly the same way. Suddenly my phone buzzed. Vanessa. I hesitated before answering. Hello? Her breathing sounded shaky. Did you see the news? Yes. This is getting out of control. I stayed silent. Daniel, Adrian's blaming everything on me. You hid debts from him. I was trying to fix them first. That's not an excuse. Her voice cracked slightly. Everybody's attacking me online. I closed my eyes tiredly. You publicly humiliated me for months. That's different. I almost laughed. No, I replied quietly. It really isn't. She stayed silent briefly before speaking again. You're filing legal action against me? The fact she already knew meant Olivia moved quickly. Yes. Daniel, please. You stole from me. I made mistakes. You planned those mistakes for months. Her breathing became uneven again. You don't understand the pressure I was under. I finally snapped. And you never understood what you did to me. Silence filled the line. Then she whispered softly, I never wanted this. That sentence angered me more than anything else. Really? Because you looked pretty happy while destroying my life. I hung up before she could answer. The legal battle dragged on for weeks, but my life no longer felt frozen inside the pain. Every morning, I woke up with purpose instead of dread. Ethan trusted me with bigger projects now, Marcus treated me like I was finally alive again, and Olivia slowly became the calmest part of my life. One evening, we sat inside a small restaurant near her office after another exhausting court meeting. Olivia studied the menu quietly while I loosened my tie. You always look uncomfortable in formal clothes, she said. I spent half my life carrying concrete. You clean up surprisingly well for a construction guy. I laughed softly. Was that a compliment? Don't get used to it. I smiled while watching her sip water calmly. Unlike Vanessa, Olivia never performed for attention. She didn't care about expensive places, designer clothes, or impressing strangers online. She listened carefully when people spoke. She noticed details. She told the truth even when it hurt. That honesty scared me sometimes. You've been quieter lately, she said. I've been thinking. Dangerous hobby. I rubbed my jaw tiredly. Do you think people can completely change? Olivia tilted her head slightly. Depends. On what? Whether they regret hurting others or just regret consequences. That answer hit harder than she probably realized. Because lately, Vanessa kept contacting me more often. Not angry anymore. Desperate. 3 days earlier, she called at 2 a.m. Daniel, she whispered weakly. You've been drinking. So what? I sat up in bed immediately. Vanessa, it's late. A broken laugh escaped her. You used to stay awake all night for me. The sadness in her voice twisted something inside my chest. What do you want? Nobody talks to me anymore. I stayed silent. Adrian left, she whispered. The investors left too. Part of me wanted satisfaction. Instead, I mostly felt exhausted. I warned you about him, I admitted quietly. You warned me about myself too. That sentence stayed in my head for days afterward. Now, sitting across from Olivia at dinner, I found myself distracted again. You're thinking about her, Olivia said calmly. I looked up. How do you always know? You get this guilty expression. I don't feel guilty. Yes, you do. I sighed heavily. She sounds broken lately. Olivia leaned back in her chair quietly. And nothing. Daniel. I looked at her carefully. She spoke softly but directly. You can feel empathy for someone without sacrificing yourself again. That was the difference between Olivia and everyone else in my life. She never manipulated my emotions. She forced me to confront them honestly. After dinner, we walked slowly through downtown while cold wind moved between the buildings. Olivia kept both hands inside her coat pockets. "Can I ask you something personal?" I said. "You just did." I laughed quietly. "Fair enough." She glanced toward me. "Ask. Why did you become a lawyer?" For a second, her expression changed. Pain. Small but visible. "My fiancé cheated on me," she answered finally. I blinked in surprise. "You were engaged?" 3 years ago." "What happened?" Olivia looked ahead silently for several steps before speaking. "He stole money from my father's company while we were planning the wedding." "That's horrible." "He blamed stress. Then alcohol. Then childhood trauma." She shook her head slightly. "Eventually I realized some people destroy others because they refuse to face themselves." I studied her carefully. "That's why you understood my situation so quickly." She nodded once. Pain recognizes pain. The honesty between us felt strangely intimate. No games. No pretending. Just truth. That scared me almost as much as it comforted me. Later that week, court hearings became uglier publicly. Former employees from Vanessa's company started posting videos online accusing her of unpaid salaries and manipulation. Every day brought new headlines. Fashion brand exposed for financial misconduct. Former staff speak out against Vanessa Hale. Influencer empire falling apart. Marcus showed me one article while shaking his head. "She's getting destroyed online." I stared at the screen quietly. "Yeah. You okay?" "I don't know." Marcus frowned slightly. "You still love her?" The question hit hard because I genuinely didn't know anymore. Vanessa Hale officially filed for bankruptcy on a cold Thursday morning. I found out while standing inside Ethan's office reviewing construction reports. Marcus sent me the article with one short message. "It's over." I stared at the headline silently. Fashion influencer Vanessa Hale files for bankruptcy after financial collapse. The article explained everything brutally. Investors pulled out completely. Lawsuits stacked against her company. Former employees demanded unpaid salaries. Adrian Cross publicly denied involvement with her finances and called the situation deeply unfortunate. Deeply unfortunate. Funny way to describe destroying someone's life. Ethan noticed my expression from across the office. "Bad news?" I handed him the phone quietly. He scanned the article briefly before looking back at me. "How do you feel?" I thought about the answer honestly. "Nothing like I expected." Ethan nodded slowly. "That usually happens with revenge." The strange part was true. Months ago, I imagined feeling victorious when Vanessa finally lost everything. Instead, I mostly felt tired. The anger still existed, but it no longer controlled every thought inside my head. That night, Marcus and I watched another online interview discussing Vanessa's collapse. One influencer laughed openly. People only supported her because she looked successful. Another shook her head dramatically. Nobody wants association with scandal. Marcus muted the television angrily. Fake people. I leaned back against the couch quietly. That world only loves winners. You still defending her? No, I stared toward the dark screen. Just understanding her better now. Marcus frowned slightly. Meaning? She became addicted to attention. And eventually attention replaced everything real. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then Marcus sighed heavily. You know she lost almost everybody now, right? I nodded slowly. I heard Sophia stopped talking to her too. That didn't surprise me anymore. Vanessa spent years building relationships based on status instead of trust. Once the status disappeared, so did the people surrounding her. 3 days later, heavy rain covered the city while I left Ethan's office late at night. Thunder echoed above downtown buildings while people rushed through sidewalks carrying umbrellas. I stopped near a small cafe waiting for the rain to slow down. That's when I saw her. Vanessa stood alone beneath the cafe awning wearing a dark coat soaked from the storm. For a second, I barely recognized her. The confident energy that once filled every room around her had completely vanished. She looked exhausted. Older somehow. Broken. When her eyes found mine, she froze instantly. Part of me considered walking away immediately. Instead, I stayed where I was. Vanessa slowly stepped closer. Daniel. Her voice sounded smaller than I remembered. Hi. Rain hammered loudly against the streets around us while awkward silence stretched between us. You look different, she whispered. So do you. A sad smile crossed her face briefly. Yeah. For the first time in years, Vanessa wore no designer clothes, no perfect makeup, no performance. She just looked human. That somehow hurt more. You waiting for someone? I asked quietly. She shook her head. Nobody's coming. The answer carried enough sadness to tighten my chest. We stood silently another moment before she finally spoke again. My company's officially gone. I heard. I kept thinking I could fix everything before it collapsed. She laughed weakly. Turns out I was mostly fixing appearances. I studied her carefully. Months ago, she would have blamed everyone else immediately. Now she just looked tired of lying. 1 year later, I stood inside my own house holding a coffee mug while morning sunlight filled the kitchen windows. Sometimes the silence still surprised me. No tension. No anxiety. No fear about saying the wrong thing. Just peace. The house wasn't massive or flashy, but every part of it belonged to me. I earned it honestly. After Ethan expanded the company, he promoted me into a senior leadership position. We completed 3 major development projects that year, and for the first time in my life, I felt genuinely proud of myself. Not because somebody loved me. Because I respected the man I became. Marcus walked through the front door carrying breakfast bags like he owned the place. You still leave your door unlocked, he complained. You still show up uninvited. That's friendship. I laughed quietly while he looked around the living room dramatically. Man, he said, shaking his head, remember when you were crying on my disgusting couch every night? I try not to. Marcus grinned. Now look at you. Homeowner. Fancy job. Healthy relationship. You finally learned how to live for yourself. I pointed toward the food bags. You came here to insult me or feed me? Both. While we ate breakfast, Marcus studied me carefully. You know what's weird? What? You don't talk about Vanessa anymore. I paused slightly before answering. Because she stopped controlling my thoughts. Marcus nodded slowly. That's growth. Maybe it was. Or maybe pain simply loses power when you stop feeding it every day. Later that afternoon, I met Olivia at a furniture store downtown. She walked beside me studying shelves while holding my hand casually. A year ago, even simple moments like this felt impossible. Now they felt natural. You still overthink everything before buying it, she teased. I'm comparing quality. You've been comparing lamps for 20 minutes. That's responsible adulthood. Olivia laughed softly. God, I loved hearing that sound. Not because it filled some emotional emptiness inside me. Because it simply made life better. That difference mattered. We stopped near a large bookshelf display while Olivia crossed her arms thoughtfully. This one fits your office. You just want more space for your legal books. That too. I smiled while watching her examine the shelves carefully. Olivia never demanded attention. She never treated love like control. She challenged me when I needed honesty and stood beside me when life became difficult. Real love felt quieter than obsession. Stronger too. That night, we sat together on my balcony while city lights stretched across the distance. Olivia rested her head lightly against my shoulder. You seem happy lately, she said softly. I am. You used to answer that question much slower. I looked toward her quietly. I spent years believing happiness depended on somebody else choosing me. And now? Now I think peace matters more. Olivia smiled faintly. That sounds emotionally healthy. Don't ruin the moment by sounding like a lawyer. She laughed again. For a while, neither of us spoke. The comfortable silence between us felt meaningful instead of awkward. Eventually, Olivia asked quietly, "Do you ever miss her?" The question deserved honesty. Sometimes I miss who I thought she was. Olivia nodded carefully. That's fair. But I don't miss what loving her turned me into. That part mattered most. Loving Vanessa often felt like slowly disappearing. Loving Olivia felt like becoming more myself. A few weeks later, Ethan invited me to celebrate another successful project at his office. He handed me a glass while smirking proudly. You know, he said, when I first called you last year, you sounded like a man standing at the edge of a cliff. I laughed quietly. Honestly, I probably was. And now? I looked around the crowded room filled with people who respected me professionally. I finally climbed back up. Ethan raised his glass slightly. That's because you stopped letting somebody else define your value. His words stayed with me long after the celebration ended. That night, while getting ready for bed, my phone buzzed unexpectedly. Unknown number. Normally, I ignored those messages. Something made me open this one. It was Vanessa. Not a call. Just a message. For a long moment, I stared at the screen without breathing. Then I slowly started reading. Daniel. I know I probably don't deserve a response. Honestly, I'm not asking for one. I just needed to tell you something without excuses this time. I spent years confusing ambition with greed. I convinced myself success mattered more than loyalty. Somewhere along the way, I stopped loving people correctly. Especially you. You gave me real love before I had anything, and instead of appreciating it, I treated it like something guaranteed. I controlled you because I was terrified of losing the one person who saw me before the fake version of myself took over. By the time I understood what I destroyed, it was already gone. I'm sorry for all of it. Not because my life collapsed.